You're watching Just the News. I'm Amita Balachandra. We're starting off with Russia's invasion of Ukraine. It's day 10. First, focusing on Indian students who are stuck in Sumy. About 600 of them are still waiting for the government's help. There have been multiple videos that have been released. As of today, there was one video that went viral where students are talking about how they're constantly listening to bombarding, shelling, and street fights. They said that they are risking their lives and moving towards the border. They also said that they were helpless in desperation without food and water. Now, students over the last few days have been sending SOS messages to the government for their immediate evacuation. But so far, that hasn't happened. In the meantime, Russia has informed the UN Security Council that Russian buses are ready at crossing points to go to the eastern Ukrainian cities of Kyiv and Sumy to evacuate Indian citizens and other foreign nationals who are stranded there. The Indian embassy has said that 3 buses organized by the government of India has reached Pisochyn and will shortly be making their way westwards. Now, this was put out a couple of hours ago. The MEA has also said that they are extremely concerned about Sumy in a statement that was put out about 3 to 4 hours ago. I'm reading it out. We are deeply concerned about Indian students in Sumy, Ukraine, have strongly pressed Russian and Ukrainian governments through multiple channels for an immediate ceasefire to create a safe corridor for our students, have advised our students to take safety precautions, stay inside shelters, and avoid unnecessary risks. Ministry and our embassies are in regular touch with the students, end quote. Now, at least 1,000 Indians 700 are still stuck in Sumy and 300 in Kharkiv, stranded in conflict zones in eastern Ukraine, the government said on Friday, adding that arranging buses to evacuate them is proving to be the biggest challenge right now. Meanwhile, there was information that Russia had announced ceasefire. However, according to Mariupol City Council, evacuation of civilians from Mariupol has now been postponed because they say that the Russian side has not been observing the temporary ceasefire in place. They also went on to say that residents should disperse and find places of shelter and that more information will be given soon. Now, according to BBC, a resident of Mariupol has said that he was hearing shelling every 3 minutes. Now, the ceasefire was designed to let civilians leave Mariupol and Volnovakha, but Ukrainian authorities say attacks are continuing and that evacuation is postponed. Now, Mariupol is one of the key cities that are affected due to Russian shelling. In the meantime, Russian ministry has said that it was Ukrainian nationalists who prevented civilians from leaving the cities. This is according to Russia's RIA news agency. Meanwhile, there have been multiple video messages that have gone in from the Ukrainian president. The latest says that he has not fled the country, contrary to Russian reports. Now, this comes after several Russian media reports claimed that he had fled the country to Poland. Now, in the video, Mr. Zelenskyy said, and I quote, "I am in Kyiv, I'm working here, no one has escaped anywhere," end quote. Now, NATO has rejected pleas from Ukraine to impose a no-fly zone to halt Russia's bombing, but Western allies warn President Vladimir Putin of fresh sanctions if he does not stop his war. At the emergency meeting, after the meeting, NATO chief said, and I quote, "The only way to implement a no-fly zone is to send NATO fighter planes into Ukraine's airspace and then impose that no-fly zone by shooting down Russian planes," end quote. Now, if we did that, he said, we'll end up with something that could end in a full-fledged war in Europe. Now, Ukraine has been pleading desperately for the West to help stop Russian jets from bombing, but NATO chief has said that the alliance would not intervene in the conflict over fears of a direct clash with Moscow that could spiral into a nuclear war. Now, in the meantime, Putin has said that imposing a no-fly zone would mean joining the conflict. He said, and I quote, "Any movement in this direction would be considered by us as participation in an armed conflict by that country," end quote. Now, Singapore has become the latest country to announce sanctions on Russia. The sanctions include 4 banks and an export ban on electronics, computers, and military items. The European Union has also joined members of the Council of the Baltic Sea States in suspending Russia and Belarus from the Council's activities. Now, in a statement, the EU has said, and I quote, "This decision is a part of the European Union's and like-minded partners' response to Russia's invasion of Ukraine and the involvement of Belarus in this unprovoked and unjustified aggression," end quote. Moving on from the story now, in other news, starting off with Manipur elections. Now, 2 people were killed, according to several reports, in separate incidents of poll-related violence in Manipur as voting was underway for the second and the last phase of the state assembly elections today. Now, the voter turnout till 5 p.m. was 76.04%. Moving on, the Haryana government yesterday introduced the Prevention of Unlawful Conversion of Religion Bill 2022 in the Legislative Assembly amid protests from the opposition. Now, the bill has been criticized by the opposition. According to the bill, if conversion is done by allurement, use of force, fraudulent means of coercion, then there is a provision of imprisonment of 1 to 5 years and a fine of not less than 1 lakh rupees. Also in the news, and this is a report according to PTI, which has quoted sources which say that an expert panel of the country's Central Drug Authority has recommended granting emergency use authorization to Serum Institute of India's COVID-19 vaccine Covovax for the 12 to 17 age group. Now, the Drugs Controller General of India had approved Covovax for restricted use in emergency situation in adults on the 28th of December. It has, however, not yet been included in the country's vaccination drive. Moving on now to environment news. Now, thousands of South Korean firefighters and troops are battling a large wildfire that has spread across more than 6,000 hectares. Now, the fire, which began on Friday morning, has reportedly destroyed at least 159 homes and 46 other buildings and prompted an evacuation of more than 6,000 people. There were no reports of immediate injuries or casualties. As of Saturday afternoon, and this is according to the Associated Press, around 7,000 firefighters, troops and public workers, as well as 65 helicopters were sent to contain the fire. On to international news right now. According to South Korea, North Korea has fired a suspected ballistic missile into its sea off its east coast today. This is Pyongyang's 9th missile test so far this year. And in science and technology news, the Indian Navy today successfully test-fired a long-range version of the BarhMos cruise missile. Now, the Navy has tweeted, and I quote, "Long-range precision strike capability of advanced version of BarhMos missile successfully validated. Pinpoint destruction of target demonstrated combat and mission readiness of frontline platforms. Yet another shot in the arm of the Atmanirbhar Bharat," end quote. On to sports news right now. Russian Formula One driver Nikita Mazepin has been sacked by the Haas team. Now, Haas is a US-based outfit and has also terminated the contract of their title sponsor, the Russian chemicals company Uralkali. Now, the statement of Haas team read, and I quote, "Haas F1 team has elected to terminate with immediate effect the title partnership of Uralkali and the driver contract of Nikita Mazepin. As with the rest of the Formula One community, the team is shocked and saddened by the invasion of Ukraine and wishes for a swift and peaceful end of the conflict," end quote. And one piece of good news before we wrap things up here on this bulletin. For the first time, Bharat Aluminium Company has inducted 4 members in the transgender community to work as forklift operators, according to a report by the Indian Express. Now, Balco CEO Abhijit Pati has congratulated them and said, and I quote, "Any industry runs on skill and skills are not dependent on gender. Skills are cultivated by hard work," end quote. Now, that brings us to the end of this bulletin. A lot of you in the comments yesterday told us that the audio was not very good. Today, we've introduced another audio device for better audio for you. So let us know if the audio is better and what else we can do to improve this for you on a daily basis. Thank you so much for watching. Good night. Have a happy weekend.